everyone, Graham from Spectra Racing. So after a successful season last year at Gridlife Track Battle and Street Mod class, took a couple takeaways from it, and I made a lot of changes to the Mustang, so let's get started on looking at them. Okay, so first and most importantly with the Mustang, now I'll never test to be the best driver here, but there were moments last season where power was just an obvious issue. The car had been making 520 wheel horsepower and around 450 wheel torque. So there were some moments here, I'll have it on screen here, just going at CMP, back straight away, Civic Type R, putting car lengths on me. You know, later found out big turbo, more power than me actually. However, you know, that can be solved with money. So the big thing is I added a 4 Innovations E85 compatible fuel system. So those are the big injectors. I'll have the specs down below. I actually did not install this. I usually do not let other people work on my car. However, I was trying to cheat to save time. I had VMP do it. They're local to me. However, the hurricane struck and 4 Innovations had a lot of problems getting parts because they were hit pretty badly by the Hurricane Milton. So that took a lot longer than usual. However, as you can see in the intro, the car now made 607 wheel horsepower and 560 wheel torque, which is a gigantic gain, which really helps. Now it does run X85 now. Now X85 is basically just regular consistent E85. Here in the southeast, the E85 cannot be consistent because of the water, you know, the humidity and stuff in Florida. So one of the other things, now in that dyno video, I do not have the special Grip Tech pulley. So if you don't know what Grip Tech is, so the standard pulley, this is a 2.7 inch pulley. When I had to install this pulley, I had to ground out the snout actually a little bit, which is something evidently you have to do with the R2300 blower. The Grip Tech, however, now standard pulley, you know, you can kind of see they are just metal ribs. The Grip Tech kind of has a like a bed liner consistency, so that helps with slip. So when the car was dynoed in the video in the beginning, it did have some pretty bad slippage. And after the fact, I had to get this custom made. It took about 2 months because not a lot of people with 3 valves are running this sort of setup. So according to VMP, it'll make it like around an extra pound of boost. So we're probably looking at around 740-ish crank horsepower. So that's a nice boost. And some of the overlay footage at the local Autocross, you can really see, you know, the car just putting 11s down. It is redonkulously fast now. It is no longer slower than my Tesla, thank you, thankfully. Which is nice. So you can see I took the car to an Autocross to test it. You can see how quite terrible I was doing. It was pretty chilly there, but there's no excuse for being that far away from the cones. I don't know why I was doing so bad. The course was a little slick, and I did actually loosen up my rear upper control arm bolts that I had adjusted the pinion angle after years of not checking it. But I got this cool footage from CG Drones, who went to extreme lengths to get licensed and actually be able to film at an Autocross event. So that was very cool. But it is kind of a neat perspective. You can see the differential working, you know, doing a nice 11s. You can see me spinning out in the gravel, probably because the alignment is completely out of whack still. It's one of the last things I have to do is an alignment and a new corner balance. I did send my dampers off to get serviced, so everything is probably a little out of whack there balance wise, but man is the car fast. So with that extra power, one of the other things I wanted to do, and one of the things that came up throughout the season was the transmission kind of getting angry at me, especially at longer courses and especially later in the day in later sessions. So what would happen is I get out, first session, transmission's fine. Second session, transmission's okay. Third session of the day, the transmission never really, it's kind of, you know, centrally located, obviously down below. It never really cools off. I had been running a the Shelby scoop underneath, which kind of ruins some of the aerodynamics underneath. Not to mention, you know, you're trying to get air from not being underneath the car. It did work okay-ish. However, I didn't want to really continue to ruin the aerodynamics underneath and sort of not have to run into, you know, sticking box fans underneath the car or something and resorting to those crazy things. And especially at like Road America, the transmission just got hot no matter what, just because it's a 4-mile track. So I installed, and I'll have it overlaid here, the transmission cooler. Now the pump is down here in front of the front wheel well here. And the cooler, you can see, is here in front of the grill. You can see it's kind of black. It may not show up in the thing here. The inlet and outlet are in the fill and drain on the Tremec 3650. My 3650 is modified, and it has an Australian fifth. It's not upside down, it's just a shorter fifth gear. So you can get to your top speed of the car, which is around 154 at 6,000 RPM in fifth gear. But anyway, basically, I opted without the fan because I didn't really think it needed it with the extra volume. The pump itself is actually really loud. It kind of sounds like there's something wrong. But it's just on a switch on one of the key-on fuses. So you can kind of see in here in the car that it's just on a switch there. So probably second, third session of the day, I'll probably turn it on after a few laps of making sure the trans is nice and warm. So that way, no more missed shifts. You know, you just want to be out on track. You want to just be, you really want to focus on driving, right? You don't want to have problems with the car. Okay, so some other things that are not even on the car are a set of practice session wheels. So one of the things at Gridlife is you have practice sessions and then you have competitive sessions, right? So towards the end of the season, my Bridgestone RE71 RSs were kind of dead and kind of heat cycled out. And I usually don't like buying another whole set of tires because you can never honestly go through them sometimes if you buy like a whole nother set. So these, I'm lucky my Tesla has the same bolt pattern, Autocross Tesla. However, the bore size in the Mustang is bigger than it is on the Tesla, so you can just run rings for the Tesla. So that way I can run practice session on the Tesla / Autocross wheels at Gridlife. And then, now these are still the old dead set, but run competitive then for the competitive sessions at Gridlife. So that way you just kind of get a little bit more of the newer tire life throughout the whole season. And while also being able to consume the tires, because you don't want to kind of leave any for the season and throw them away before they just kind of age out. Okay, so some other smaller things to the car. We have some new fender vents. Honestly, they're just cool. Basically, there's just lots of holes drilled in the fender liner here. Theory is that kind of the high pressure air gets vented out of here. I have no idea if those work or not, but they sure as heck do look cool. Updates to the livery. Have some more stuff coming for the roof, just so the car looks cool. I have a quote-unquote diffuser. Now with the Mustang, you really need to, on S197 cars, you really need like a flat bottom floor, which is against the rule in street mod. So what you can really do is there's a lot of space underneath here between the charcoal cover and the bumper itself. So all this quote-unquote diffuser does is really just cover that space so air doesn't get trapped in the pocket and rip your bumper off. I see on a lot of older model S197s, the bumper is hanging on by a thread, and you can just do that driving on the highway. So yeah, that'll just help cover the air. A little bit less drag. I had to move the tow hook. Obviously, it's drilled into the bumper itself and welded in there. The timing device then has to be back there. So some other things to the interior of the car. I put back in the Ford Racing steering wheel just so it's a little bit easier to get out of the car in case there's a fire or something. The Garmin catalyst used to be up here. I kind of like the Garmin catalyst so it's out of the way, but I found when it inevitably crashes or something or is driving me absolutely nuts because it's picking that opportunity to not connect for some dumbass reason. it was too hard to fidget with it in hot pits or a false grid. So moved it down here. I have an SCT device to monitor IAT and coolant instead of using my old phone. The phone proved unreliable. For some reason, it would work fine driving around for 30 minutes and around my neighborhood, but the minute I took it out on track, it would crash. I have no idea. The universe seems to hate me when it comes to Android in track cars. The SCT seems dead reliable though. I guess we'll see how it performs on track. So lastly, I have updated the pit vehicle, the Warthog. This thing has been an absolute blast. I'm going to do another video soon on the changes I've made to it. But, you know, delivering fuel and tools around the track and just for the lulls, obviously, has been an absolute hoot. So be sure to check that out. Okie dokie, so with that, that's pretty much it for some of the prep I've done for 2025. You know, on the surface, doesn't sound like too much, but a lot of time and effort went into fixing a lot of little things, dialing in settings, getting angles right on the splitter and stuff, adjusting that, adjusting the wing. We're doing a lot of maintenance and suspension, the dampers being serviced, obviously. A lot of tweaking, make sure the car is going to survive. Lots of spare parts. And one of the other videos I'm going to be doing is on my truck. I got a whole new truck set up, camping and everything. A lot of work went into that. I probably spent half my time getting that all prepped. So I didn't have to spend a ton of money on Airbnbs. I can actually stay on site at Gridlife. So if you have any questions about the setup or anything, be sure to post them below. Thanks for watching.